The work session for the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meeting held twice monthly. And I want to thank Vice Chair Thompson for presiding over the district budget meeting preceding this. We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Thompson with board communications.
Thank you. So it's always interesting to hear from the small districts, and we'll be hearing more from them about rural law enforcement and the roads district as well, rural roads. So we're encouraging more communication. They're interested, they're involved, and we're going to bring them in to hear what they have to say to us. So that's really great. Second thing is, I've gone to drug court graduation twice in the last month. It's amazing. It's so inspiring to listen to people being lauded by the court, by treatment staff, by their peers. And so to sit in as a county commissioner, just in case we forget sometimes exactly who's vulnerable and who's succeeding in challenging circumstances, it's just a lovely reminder. So I would encourage that. The third thing is the Association of Oregon Counties had an in-person meeting for folks who were willing in Hood River. I was not willing, so I'm still doing virtual, and it was hybrid. It's a little awkward. We made it work. We passed the due structure. We passed the budget. All of those have been issues that have been, I want to say, organizationally problematic. And so working as a community of commissioners and judges all over Oregon, we've worked successfully on those. So that's inspiring. Finally, there is a community club meeting, and I want to talk about the role of the organizations that we recognize, because I argued for the inclusion of recognized organizations to provide input to the county on neighborhood livability issues. I have some concerns at how polarized and political that can be sometimes. So as we're looking at the whole scope of our community volunteer engagement, and we look at their mission, we look at the scope of their authority, we look at the chain of command, we look at appropriate behavior, inappropriate behavior, monitoring, consequences, and the affirmation from folks whom we privilege to engage with us for purposes of community input to help with the well-being of everybody. I want us to consider these issues as we go forward. I think it's critically important that we set the tenor and show the leadership to set expectations for how people behave in the political process that we're part of. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Bangs.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll briefly go through my week last week. Update in the forestry sector. Our state forester currently resigned effective May 31st, Peter Doherty. He submitted his resignation. CFTLC met, and I chose to abstain from a vote just in regards to an amicus brief that they wanted to present regarding the Linn County lawsuit. And because Clatsop County opted out of that lawsuit, I felt it best to just abstain from the vote because I didn't know if it would have future implications for us as a county and any future choices that we made. So I just figured, let's just listen. And that's what I chose to do, is just listen. There was an HCP, FMP, Forest Management Plan meeting through the Oregon Board of Forestry here recently. It's about 2 hours long. I encourage all of you to go pop on and listen. There are some really good questions that were asked, some thoughts that were presented. It's just in regards to the Habitat Conservation Plan that ODF is currently pushing through the NEPA process, but also in regards to their forest management plan that they are going to be implementing here soon. So yeah, it can be found on the Oregon Department of Forestry Facebook, or not Facebook page, I apologize, YouTube channel. It's regularly updated with current meetings. It's about 2 hours long, but it's worth a listen, in my opinion. We passed the Northwest Senior and Disability Services budget. Looks good for this upcoming year. I really enjoy those meetings and those folks in those meetings. There was some concerns regarding 4-H volunteers and 4-H members with Oregon State enacting a mandatory vaccine for on-campus students and staff. Oregon State did very similar to what U of O did and Western Oregon, where they are requiring vaccinations for students and staff who attend the university. And there was some question brought up if that would be for Oregon State, if that would be extended to also the volunteers and the children that participate in the extension services. And that conversation was tabled and will be addressed later on. So currently it is just, I wanted to make sure that there was clarification that it is only Oregon State staff, university staff, and students attending the university. I have yet to receive clarification on if it's extension staff also, but also that is all under the umbrella of Oregon having the ability to opt out for medical or religious purposes. So I just wanted to put that out there in a public meeting, that is what I have found out, and I've also reached out to those constituents that were concerned. So.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Toyoka.
Well, good evening, everyone. I feel remiss because I missed on the budget district. I missed the marathon session today. Unfortunately, other priorities and they didn't make me able to attend those. So I apologize to my fellow commissioners and to the county for not attending. But I have read the documents, so I do keep up outside of this venue. What I would like to report is on public works assessment. We've been working on that with McKinsey. I think at the end of the day, we're looking at conceptual design for the 2 proposed sites, Sorting Yard, Business Park, and the process that we're going through, I believe, will at the end of the day give the county and the people of this county the best information and the best possible utilization of county funds. So not only what will be serving best for public works, but it's looking more long-term. How do we get more infrastructure? How do we look at it in terms of long-term benefit for the entire county? So that is a very thoughtful process that I think in the long run, in terms of resiliency and comprehensive plan, will all dovetail together. Speaking of comprehensive plan, probably like my fellow commissioners, a lot of correspondence, constituent correspondence over the comprehensive plan. And my only response to everyone is that, as a commission, we're working together. The pause was intended to, ensure process. And I truly believe that none of us are agenda driven. It's just purely process to make sure we have the proper path moving forward. It is a long, comprehensive plan is a very, a document that hasn't been updated for 40 years. And I think it has to have that process moving forward so we can implement change now and then ensure that it doesn't go another 40 years without review. So I've been trying to reinforce that this pause is for those purposes, no agenda driven. And I believe I can speak for all of us as commissioners in that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Webb.
I have been spending many hours every week working very closely with the Housing Authority. We've had more staff upheaval there. Once again, we're paying a lot of money to have a company come in and act as our interim executive director. And I'm hoping that in the next, I've already asked the county manager that to have some time for a work session to bring you all up to date on what's going on. And part of it is that because it's so much, well, a lot of it is related to personnel matters that I can't report to you in a session. And so I really feel the need to bring this information to you because I think everybody's got to be well informed about not the operational part of housing authority, but also the projects that are in the pipeline. One of which in Clatsop County is just going to be an absolutely gorgeous project, and it's fully funded. So I'm real anxious to have to have you all know all about that. And I, you know what? I'm doing precious little else. I second the public works effort. It's been, I think, very impressive. The McKenzie, the company that is doing the work both on the business park and in terms of what do we need to do to get this thing sold. And then the public works facility planning has been very impressive. So I look forward to sharing all that with you all fairly soon. And I think that's it.
Yeah, great news. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb. There was a call today at 10:30 amongst the county chairs and the governor's office, and I was able to report out that we had received our Pfizer vaccine as we had requested a couple weeks ago, and that we'll be having 2 clinics for minors this Saturday and next Saturday. And also, I know Margo will be talking a little bit more in the public health update, but that we're making some real progress within vaccinating our community. So we hope to move to the lower risk levels soon as we reach that 65% level. Other than that, I will conclude our board communications. Any comments on the formal agenda? If not, we'll go ahead and move to the legislative update. And I know Phil is joining us by.
I am, Commissioner. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. And I apologize about not being on video. I'm actually in transport to Salem. And so I just pulled onto an off ramp to make sure that we are able to communicate. Just wanted to give a quick update on some highlights that are occurring this week on timeline with legislative session. We are over that hump of more than halfway through session. This week and next week are going to be a lot of the puzzle pieces that have been missing in the budget conversation are coming together. And when I say that, I mean that on Tuesday, obviously, we started seeing some additional guidance released from the U.S. Treasury to states and entities and local governments about the use of the ARPA dollars, or the American Rescue Plan dollars, that were part of the last federal package that was passed. As that has landed, we are starting to hear a little bit more conversation on the intent and use of dollars. As you folks know, outside of the local government allocation and the other slices, the state itself is expected to receive $2.6 billion to help cover costs. A portion of that, just like everybody else's, will be received this year, another half next year. But that was one of the big missing pieces in the budget conversation. The other big puzzle piece that we are waiting for will occur next week, and that is May 19th, and that is the final revenue forecast before session adjourns. That is key, as folks, as it will provide the information needed to start really moving budgets in an aggressive way to through committee and out to floors for a vote. And so with the guidance from on the federal dollars, the most recent revenue forecast, I believe you're going to start seeing the pace increase on Ways and Means. They do feel like they are behind because they've been waiting for this information. That said, the big budget that will be moving into the full Ways and Means this Friday is the K-12 budget. They are considering or will be considering a vote on a $9.3 billion K-12 budget. That is up from what the current service level is. The current service level to maintain where we are in K-12 would be $8.9 billion. What's being recommended by Ways and Means is $9.3 billion. They will have that vote this Friday, and that is, as I'm probably sure you all do know, the big 800-pound gorilla in the budget cycle. And so once that's out the door, that gives surety or allows our local school districts to start planning their budgets, but also allows the legislature to focus on the other budgets that are also very reflective to local governments. The other thing that I want to note just on the timeline pace of things is that this Friday is the big second deadline. It is called the Second Chamber of Origin deadline. If you want bill, so if it is a Senate bill, it has to be in the House by now, and that House or that second chamber has to have a work session scheduled by this Friday. Doesn't have to occur by this Friday. It just has to be scheduled by this Friday. If it is not, it's considered dead. And the only exemption from that is joint ways and if the bill is in joint ways and means, rules, or revenue. So next week we will see definitely that final list of bills. It's about 1,000 left that are currently alive. You will start seeing what is the remainder of that that will be moving forward and being considered for the last portion of this session. The other part that I wanted to just highlight for you commissioners is just a few bills that we are following specifically this week. And the first is Senate Bill. It would help if I was on the right page. I flipped to the second page. The first bill is Senate Bill 250. And this is a bill that it was proposed by the Association of County Clerks. It is going to be up for a third reading or a floor vote tomorrow in the House. And it passed out of committee 3-1. So in a bipartisan manner, we have this as a priority one for the county. It had no opposition in testimony in the committee, so I expect that it would probably move forward on the floor pretty well. One thing that I do just want to note, and as a summary of that bill, because I'm sure just giving you the bill number is not helpful. What the bill actually does is it establishes regular business hours for the purposes of 4 hours a day and 30 hours a week for the county clerk offices. But what was interesting is they did have an amendment on this bill that will allow for, under certain circumstances, the county clerks to adjust that. And so they have some flexibility on how those hours are determined, and it spells out what those specificities are in which they can do that. So that is one just being on our list of priority ones. I wanted to make sure you folks know that is moving forward. The other bill that is we have as a priority 2 is up for a work session tomorrow as well, and this is House Bill 2654. This will allow electric companies to use, or electric cooperatives, electric cooperatives to use electric easements for broadband services. What is interesting is this bill did start off with a little opposition. They did amend it, and it now has come out of committee with full support from both parties. There in the amended version, there's no opposition. It seems like the concern was taken care of. One thing that I think is important for us to know on this is that in that amendment, it did give specify requirements that electric cooperatives would have to give notice if there's to the entities they're using these easements for, and it gives reasonable accommodations so that it does prevents disruptions for agricultural and forest operations and businesses, which was really important in our rural areas, specifically in Clatsop County, where we might have those type of businesses more prevalent than other counties. So that is moving forward in the amended version with no opposition out of committee, like I shared. It did pass the House 54-0 as well, and so this would be on the Senate in the second chamber. So it will easily meet Friday's deadline, and it looks like that will be moving forward. do want to, I have one other bill that I do want to bring up, but I also want to note that I'm going to be sending an email to you folks to kind of get some guidance on Senate Bill 59. This was a priority one bill for us, and we had it originally in support position. There's been a lot of conversation on this in the recent weeks, and I guess I would be seeking the county's recommendation on whether we want to keep that support position. The bill, again, Senate Bill 59A, it extends the sunset on the Columbia River Fishery Enhancement Fund, and it extends it out to 2026. And for background, this fund was created by Senate Bill 830 back in 2013. It established, and the establishment of this fund would allow it to enhance fisheries and economic benefits to fisheries and native fish on the Columbia River. I believe in its original form, we were supportive. That worked well, but as it's gone through the process, it's picked up some opposition. When it went through the Senate, we did have bipartisan opposition on the floor. The House committee is also seeing some bipartisan opposition, and so I just want to email that out to you folks to see if we want to reconsider the position or if we want us to continue to share when people ask that we are supportive. The opposition specifically, and I'll spell it out more in the email, just came from the amendment, which put a little bit more criteria on the use of the funds in, and it basically said that you have to use it specifically one way or you lose the opportunity to charge the fee on fisheries, or not on fisheries, for fishing. That fee is what is capitalizing this fund. And so as I've specifically heard some testimony from Representative Bobby Levy, who was the chair of ODFNW at the time when Senate Bill 830 passed, and she had said that this bill specifically would hamstring some the use of the dollars, but I don't know our fishery well enough to know if that is a concern for us or if that is maybe a concern for another fishery upriver. So if that's okay, commissioners, I'd love to get that to you and staff to kind of give me some more guidance on that. The other bill that you will also be receiving email on is House Bill 2174A. This allows counties to divert SRS payments. It is brought forth by Representative Mark Owens, and in the testimony, AOC has been testifying in support of it as well. So I just also want to make sure that you folks are aware of that. It seems like it's an option for our county. If you want to divert these payments, the county would have to set up a special advisory board or commission and provide guidance on how the dollars will continue to be used. And given it sounds like you had a very long set of budget committees today, this might be relevant for that, as it does have effects on road funding. But I will also be putting that together. My colleague Ann Johnson has been following it very closely. She is typing up a more in-depth report to also get in your inbox. However, she is following a committee hearing as we speak and hasn't been able to jump on the call today. So that would be my main report, commissioners and commission chair. Just want to make sure that you knew that there's 3 bills that we were following this week. There's 2 bills that we're going to be emailing you for additional guidance on. And just letting you know that starting next week, you're going to see things moving a little bit hot and heavy, going through Ways and Means. So I am available for any questions if you have that.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Any questions? Okay, if none, we'll go ahead and we'll look for those emails. Thanks again for the update.
Perfect. Thank you, commissioners.
We'll move on to the public health update and Margo Lawley.
Good evening, commissioners. I know it's been a long day for you, and so I'll make this brief and ask me any questions that you may have. Yes, there are changes once again with the vaccination campaign, but I think it's good news. As you know, the threshold for the metric has changed, and the good news is that Clatsop County is at 58% for single dose for eligible populations 18 and over. That's pretty close to 65%. And in fact, we're probably closer to 60% because, we're working with data that can be, a few days old or last week's data. I would expect by the end of next week, when we add our vaccination events today or this week, and then going into our Pfizer events, that maybe by end of next week or the following week, we will definitely hit that threshold. At 65%, it's for one dose. For 16 and older, not 12 and older, but 16 and older, we go to low risk, even though the governor is asking that the state maintain its 70% threshold with the metric framework intact. So this has a number of implications for the county, and I think for the community in terms of just our messaging, because what I really see is important now is that people have been getting vaccinated because they're seeing numbers and they're being asked to get vaccinated, but they haven't really understood the return on investment. And so really now we're focusing our education on that return on investment, what it means to be fully vaccinated. The state came out with an excellent infographic describing that return on investment. And so we really want to start focusing on that. And I had a meeting this afternoon, and then Tom and Vincent and myself and Jill Quackenbush are also meeting on Friday. So I think this is a very exciting time. We're also, questions have come up this week about testing, and I've sort of had my thoughts about testing, which I've sort of kept to myself for the most part, just waiting for that window of opportunity. And I think the county is getting there. And it's really that balance between what we discussed this morning, between personal responsibility and also autonomy and freedom of choice. And so I'm beginning conversations with the state and proposing that perhaps Clatsop County could be a pilot for an approach to testing that is tried and true and evidence-based in so many other public health interventions in other areas in which we work. And I think that also would apply for messaging, because it's messaging that's familiar with most members of the community. So that's all I'm going to say on that, but I see this as very encouraging. We do have 4 Pfizer clinics scheduled over the next 4 Saturdays, or 2 in May and then 2 in June. Our clinics are still full. Our second dose clinics, we're at 94-95% return rate. And again, we're asking people, so what prompted you to come back for this second dose? Or someone who did have a true adverse event, but may have had a reaction, and yet they're back for that second dose. Not an allergic reaction, but we see all kinds of things because people have all types of health conditions that come to the clinics. And more often than not, it's because my family's vaccinated and I want to connect with my family, or they feel a sense of community responsibility, right? And so it's just, but they're there. We're doing really well. The state's recognizing how well we're doing. And so it's very, very encouraging. And the first doses are summer appointments, and then some are walk-in, right? We're open to walk-ins. And then we're starting to see that shift of those who have been watching, or like just adamant they're not going to get vaccinated. So they're the vaccine hesitant, and they're crossing over, and now they're wanting to get vaccinated. And when you think of the size of our population, right? We've given over 30,000 shots in Clatsop County. That's a lot of vaccinations, right? And so now it's time to lace it all together and help the community to understand what this return on investment is. And one of the most significant, and I think I just want everyone to hear this, and is that after you get that second dose, your series is complete, or a single dose for Johnson & Johnson, 2 weeks afterwards, right? If you're exposed to COVID, you no longer have to quarantine, right? If you develop symptoms, because we do have some breakthrough cases, then you'll want to get tested, right? But for small businesses, for employers, that is significant, that if your employees are vaccinated, It means that you're not going to lose part of the workforce if they've been exposed to somebody else who's positive. So there are many pluses, but this is a very significant one that has certainly economic benefits. So we're just going to move forward with that. We also will have to submit another attestation or equity plan to the state. I will be responsible for submitting that. We've already submitted one of those. It's the same process, and just letting the state know that, yes, we're at 65%. This is what we've done, and this is what we're going to continue to do to reach populations throughout the community. We will be bringing on a temporary vaccine event coordinator that's really going to focus on that ongoing outreach throughout the community. And so hopefully that will be confirmed by this Friday. So that's where we're at. That's my update. We're still doing about 3 to 4 clinics a week. And I think we have a really good messaging campaign, and the live stream events went really well. And from what I hear, the one last evening was also just a great success. I was running the vaccination clinic with Vincent, but I heard fabulous things about it. So.
Commissioner Thompson.
You know, I just love it when you give us reports. I just feel so charged up, and yes, we're doing this. So that's fabulous, because I was in this meeting with Leah Horner from the governor's office, and she's saying, well, you know, what works? And people were saying, oh, we go to where people are. We go to the restaurants. We go to the bars. We want to give people money maybe to do stuff. And I said, well, gee, could we just support a more mature decision-making process? But wait, you're already there ahead of me. People are thinking about community. They're thinking about family. There are economic benefits that they see so that's really wonderful. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it's great that our local residents have such are really stepping up to do what needs to be done for the common good. When we're in a tourist economy, what do we do about people who are not our permanent residents, second homeowners, tourists of varying durations? How do we deal? First of all, what do we do with those people? And then secondly, what do we do to talk to local people who have concerns about other folks coming in?
Yeah, so that's moving into the next kind of phase of the messaging campaign, right? So there's the education piece of it, and then we vaccinate. We will vaccinate anyone who wants to be vaccinated at this point, whether or not that they're a resident. There's enough vaccine now, and Oregon's position is that you don't have to be a resident of Clatsop County to get a vaccination in Clatsop County. But going forward, we will have enough vaccines as we, you know, have little walk-in clinics in whether it's Warrenton or it's in Cannon Beach. You know, whoever comes through the door, we're going to vaccinate them because it's a benefit to the individual, it's a benefit to the community, and it's certainly a benefit for anyone who is in transit or traveling. The way the data is calculated, the alert data, which is the information that gives us our vaccination rates and coverage, it is only Clatsop County residents, and they use Clatsop County address to calculate the coverage. And so it won't confuse our data for the county because they'll be using their address of residence. And if, say, they come from Portland, but they get vaccinated here, that vaccine is going to count in the county that they come from, because we have a statewide immunization registry called Alert, and a lot of people sorting and filtering that data.
Okay, so that's fabulous. Here's my question. Could that be part of tourism marketing, that we tell people if they come here, we'll vaccinate them?
I wouldn't recommend that at this point in time. If you come, then we'll vaccinate you, because there's plenty of vaccines in Oregon, right? And people are going to be traveling from other places. I think a more welcoming message is that we're so glad you're here visiting. Thank you for continuing to wear a mask. hey, if you haven't been vaccinated, but you're interested in getting vaccinated, these are opportunities where we will vaccinate you and there will be no cost to you. So
Okay.
I think it's reframing that invitation a little bit differently.
However you would frame it, if that could go to the chambers of commerce and
Oh yeah.
and tourism, you know, the short-term rental folk, all of it, if they could have that, I think that would reassure local residents a great deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. There's no bad idea here.
I see Commissioner Toyoka, you had your hand up. Just so you know, we have 2 more items on the work session agenda. So Commissioner Toyoka.
Just a quick question for Margo, since, thank you for all you do. It's amazing information you have and everything you put into this. I get a lot of questions about school for next year, and I read the governor's correspondence. I read a lot of the other information locally in your profession. Is there a discussion about a metric that could guarantee the kids going to school next year? Because there's still a lot of uncertainty.
I think there's still uncertainty, and so I don't know about a metric for that. I do know that there are conversations happening across the spectrum, and they haven't, filtered down to us yet. What I do know currently is that, for the number of kids that are going to school and participating in extracurricular activities, we're not having a lot of cases, but there are cases in the school, and it's usually household that it goes to school, right, with the kids. And so, but the school nurses are on it, the school administrators are on it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Margo.
You're welcome.
Well, if there are no other questions, I just wanted to say I was on this call at 10:30 and I was so proud of our public health department because I listened to a lot of other county chairs lament about the disconnect and distrust of their public health and the community. And they were struggling and having some real challenges in doing outreach and communicating. And I think that and I'm just credit our director, Lalich and the health department as a whole, that we've made some real inroads with community and a number of different segments of the community. And it's not done, and there's a lot of work left to do, but certainly it made me feel like we were in a good place.
Thank you. And just public health is part of this, but as you well know, public health is only a part of this. It's been an extraordinary and exceptional and very, I think there's reason to be proud partnership between so many sectors of our community and really a shared leadership opportunity. So no event happens without multiple agencies, including our hospitals, supporting this endeavor. So great. I feel very fortunate.
Yes, thank you, Director Lalich. We'll go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the LADUC Article 4 revisions. And Gail.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. In December last year, the board adopted Ordinance 20-03, which consolidated our standards document and our zoning code. And staff and the Planning Commission worked on this for probably close to 2 years. Our intent was not to change any regulations or write new regulations or delete any regulations. And that was how we went forward with it. It was only to combine and modernize. What we found out after adoption is that our intentions were clear in our head and our interpretations, but as we rearranged things and consolidated things and put things together that had never been together before, the public who was reading the document was making different interpretations, and that was not our intent. So in our head, we had one very clear path forward. The public reading it had a different path. We consulted with County Council as soon as these interpretation issues started becoming apparent, and she recommended to us that because we had not advertised or intended to change any codes or interpretations, that we continue with our original interpretation that we had before we adopted ordinance 2003. And she advised us to get on a work session agenda as quickly as possible to let you know how we were going to address the problem and then to move forward with that. So the way that we'll be addressing it is Article 4, which is all of our zoning district regulations, will go back to exactly how it was before we made the changes. So we'll go back to the old original text. Staff is making 4 revisions. We are correcting the typographic errors. We will not carry those over again. We will be updating who is responsible for approving culverts and roads. It is not the building official, so we'll be changing that to the county engineer. We will obviously update our citations and cross-references now because all the other portions of the code numbering have changed. So that will change in our zoning code that we're bringing back. And then we just made font typographical changes to fit it in with the formatting of the rest of the document that was adopted. So we would be bringing those changes back to the Planning Commission in August 2021. Well, obviously 2021 when they restart their meeting schedule. And then we would be bringing these changes back to the board again in September of this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for our Community Development Director? Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And next item is, I lost my place here. Next item is the appointment to the Arts Council of Clatsop County and amendments to the bylaws. Page 5.
Yes. Oh, okay. This is Teresa. Hello, commissioners. The Arts Council had one opening, one vacancy. Stuart Emmons resigned. And so we put out for applicants, and we had 4 applicants who applied. One had since withdrew. And so 3 of our Arts Council members interviewed and spoke to the 3 applicants. And it is their recommendation to appoint Scott Justice to the Arts Council. They felt like he would be a good fit. And then the other 2 we would still like to keep involved with the Arts Council. They have the study coming up that they could help with. And then the other part of the piece of the Arts Council is they wanted to revise their bylaws and mostly grammatical corrections. The only notable change is they would like to appoint the officers at the last meeting of the year versus the first meeting of the year, so that the old members could appoint the next year's officers versus having new members appoint the officers. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the Arts Council.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you, Teresa. Well, there aren't any other items on the work session agenda. Made it through those last 2 fairly briskly, and we can take a 5-minute break before we start the regular meeting. So we'll see you in 5 minutes or 6 minutes. Thanks again, Commissioner Thompson. I appreciate your notes from the meeting last week. That was very helpful in talking about incentives for vaccines across the state. Very interesting.
Thank you. You know, you inspire me to do my best, for which I'm always grateful.
Well, I completely agreed with your comments.
I love that our health department was there. You know, the budget hearings today, though, I think we're going to be hearing more from, what do I want to say, relocation folk. So just get ready.
Okay. Looks like we got 1 minute.
County Council, I didn't mean to surprise you with suggesting an expansion of your purview to the other libraries. Pardon me.
You're fine. It's been a long day, so I may come off a little bit punchier than I normally would. So there is no, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team.
Good. I took advantage of a chocolate energy bar. It's my compromise, because if chocolate is involved, we know.
Well, it looks like we've got 6 o'clock, and it looks like we've got all of our commission assembled, and we'll go ahead and get started. The regular meeting for the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners will begin. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. Teresa, can we have the roll call?
Commissioner Thompson,
I'm present.
Commissioner Torioka,
Here?
Commissioner Webb,
Here?
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Chair Quila.
Here. Everybody's had an opportunity to review the agenda. We have a motion to approve.
Commissioner Thompson moves to approve the agenda, sir.
A second?
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The consent calendar. So we're going to do this a little differently than last time. Let's have an opportunity to have any discussion on any of these items. If somebody wants to pull anything off, you certainly can, but want to let there be an opportunity for discussion on any of these items. Commissioner Thompson.
I really appreciate that. That's a decided improvement. So there are a couple of annexations of property into Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District. And I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda or vote for it or whatever, but I really want to have us be looking at fire issues, and sooner rather than later. It's been a very dry spring. There's a lot of activity in the state legislature. I don't know how we organize the pieces. I mean, we've already put staff at capacity, but you know, I just want us to somehow be able to engage with the fire issue in a way that leaves us feeling confident that we're looking at the parameters of the issues and at least contemplating relationships that will help us develop solutions to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Webb.
Amen, sister. We just learned a couple of hours ago that our extension folks have added a fire specialist. And it's something that I've been talking actually with their forestry guy, who also is kind of a fire expert. And it really seems as if, and I don't know, County Manager, you might correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I don't know the extent to which our emergency management folks have talked about wildfires. I do know that, there are some real nice groups of fire districts that get together and talk about those issues. But I think this is something that we have to start really getting more serious about. And it seems to me that the county ought to have some kind of universal coverage. I was really surprised to see this. I would have thought that oh, good, Tiffany's here. She's going to know, she's going to be able to answer my question. I was just really surprised that there wasn't full coverage by fire districts throughout the whole county. So anybody who can make me smarter on that issue, you're welcome to. Thank you.
Who would like to address that? I see Commissioner Bang, or go ahead, County Manager.
I was just going to say, Commissioner Coyle, members of the board, staff has met with the new extension staff. So county staff has from a number of different departments, including emergency management, the county manager's office, and others. And so we are talking and having our brainstorming session about how to engage the issue and to actually leverage all the various resources that exist in the community, so that we're not each approaching it from a silo. And so that work is going on, but there are a lot of players in it, because we have a lot of rural fire districts, we have ODF. We obviously get into construction materials. We get into all kinds of, fire setbacks. And so there's just a lot of complexity besides public education. And so, the conversation has started. I just want to let your board know that. But it's a time-consuming process, and I feel like I'm a broken record, and I don't intend to sound like that. But it's one of those, sometimes we work on so many things that we don't make progress on really any of them. And that's kind of my concern. And so, we're just going to have to look to your board to help us maintain relevance to what your priorities are on an ongoing basis. And so it may be an opportunity for us to bring back out some of the strategic initiatives we are working on. And if your board would like us to realign some of those, you can give us that direction. So, and I don't know, Tiffany might want to talk a little bit more. So
I thought I would just offer what we have going on right now. Commissioner Webb has actually been part of meetings with emergency management and the OSU Extension Service. Monica's been part of those meetings, as has Gail Hendrickson the last couple of months. We met just last week or the week before, and we do have a new person in the county eager to help us with outreach efforts. It's really about couching that at the appropriate time. Last fall, after the wildfire season, I drafted a wildfire evacuation plan for the county. And to Dawn's point, it's taken a number of months for the sheriff's office to review that draft plan, for the fire districts to review it. And so we have tentatively set up a tabletop exercise for the month of May to review that plan. That will include our OSU partners, the Department of Forestry, and all those key players. And so we did put off the education piece because we have this key planning piece in terms of evacuation. We know that that's what, yes, we'll have fire protection education, but a lot of questions will be about evacuation. So we thought it would be prudent to meet with our local response partners, come up with that information, and then roll it out. You should be seeing something coming from us in June and July. And before I finish, it is Wildfire Awareness Month. And we've been posting and doing a lot of education stuff on our website, as well as the Wildfire Wednesdays that the regional person has introduced us to. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bangs had her hand up.
I really appreciate the educational direction that you're planning on going. I know that we have an amazing resource here in our county, specifically through the Astoria ODF department, in regards to wildland firefighting response, and each of our rural departments coordinate with them very well in regards to any wildland fire issues or concerns, including grass fires. I feel like we have quite a number of folks that are very well educated, and I think just gathering them all together into one room and developing an amazing plan sounds like a fabulous idea. Just because they have so much education and so much experience behind them, each individually throughout the departments, but also at the Department of Forestry. And so I appreciate the educational piece and the direction that you're planning on going. And I wish, you know, as commissioners, we always want something to happen as soon as possible, but we also understand the process that needs to lead up to it so that when it's done fabulously. And so I just say, you know, let's use our resources. They're here, and let's host that meeting and let the community get involved, and let the people hear your plans and your thoughts. So anyhow, that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, and agree with what Commissioner Banks has said. I've been talking about my interest in this, so if you've been having meetings, I would have liked to have been known about that, so I could have either been invited to attend or get the meeting notes. So, you know, there's always plenty of meetings to go to and plenty of coordination to do. So it isn't a dig, it's just I'm really interested in this and have been and continue to be. So one of the reasons I'm very concerned is that I get fires where I live in two directions. I get beach fires and I get wildland fires. And so it's a really compelling issue. I always talk about, and how do we include visitors to Clatsop County in this education effort? Because they feel entitled to have beach fires. Second homeowners often feel entitled to have outdoor fires, whether or not they're permitted. And it's news to them that we have such a thing as a burn ban during the summer months. So all of those issues take so much community education. I don't know how you do it all, but I'd like to be part of that. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And of course, we'll include you. Know that we have not made significant steps. It's been a lot of drafting initial documents, getting the right people to approve them before we roll them out further. So thank you again.
Good discussion. Is there anything specific to the consent calendar? Does anybody have anything? Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt the consent calendar, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll go back to business from the public, which I skipped over there. Teresa, did we have anyone sign up for business from the public?
No, we did not.
Okay. We'll move on then to Commissioner Liaison reports. And we'll start with Commissioner Banks.
I kind of exhausted my reports prior to the work session, but yeah, just going to meetings. And I will have to be frank, today's budget meeting was long. So, but anyhow, I'm a little tapped out in the I think what County Council stated earlier, she's feeling it, and I'm feeling it a little bit also. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything I said at the work session, feel free. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb.
I ditto. And we're going to talk in a little while about the housing authority stuff. So you all are going to get tired of hearing me talk about all those things. So I will pass the baton.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Well, I had my chocolate bar, so I'm a little peppier than I was. AOC is going well. We're working on budgets. We're working on a due structure. There's an increasing sense that we have to have, I want to call it community development within every organization I'm part of. I consider that that's a good end, and we should be doing that. I'm delighted with what I see that we're able to do on our county board of commissioners. I want us to continue, and I'm glad that we're moving forward with how do our volunteers participate with us, with what we talk about appropriate behavior and focus and all of those kinds of things. As we're being part of community endeavors, the budget process today reminded me that one of the first steps to engagement is people come because they want to say no about something. So as we go forward as staff, as commissioners, as interested community members, how do we work together to get past that no to our mutually beneficial yes? So I'm going to try and hold that thought and keep your smiling faces with me as I go into a community meeting this Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Toyoka.
No, I just stand by the comments I made in the work session.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. I don't have anything to report. I'll move to County Manager.
Thank you, Chair Quayla, members of the board. I just want to remind your board and the public that might be listening that we have a couple of work sessions that will garner some interest, and I just wanted to note the dates of those. On June 1st, there'll be a work session for your board to discuss short-term rentals again, and that will be with Gail from Community Development. And then on June 15th, we have a work session scheduled to discuss the comprehensive plan and what the timeline and the process might look moving that forward. Another reminder is that there was a letter, it was a redraft of the letter regarding fisheries that was sent out to your board. I'm going to forget what date we sent it out. It might have been Monday. And so if your board feels comfortable with that, which I know you were when we had the first discussion, then we'll send that out tomorrow. So but I just wanted to remind you that we did make some edits to the previous version. And then if I could indulge you real quickly and have Monica talk about the budget process real quick and a follow-up meeting that we'll have to coordinate.
So per budget law, we have to notice any additional meetings. If we're going to notice it in the newspaper and on our website, we have to notice it at least 5, but no more than 30 days in advance. And since the Daily Astorian doesn't print daily, and after review of budget law, it needs to be in a printed paper. And so the soonest that we would be able to meet would be Friday the 21st. So that way we notice it properly. We also have to coordinate the notice of our public hearing notice for that June 9th adoption and budget hearing. We have to notice that no later than the 27th, and we have to get that to them prior to the 27th so that they can put it in the paper. So that would eliminate the ability for us to either meet on the 18th, which is your next work session, or on the 26th, which is your next work session, or prior to those times. And so we're proposing a meeting on Friday the 21st at 4 p.m. Based on the 2 budget committee members and the times that they said was available to them. I know Friday afternoon is sometimes hard to focus, but that's the soonest and kind of the latest that we would be able to meet in order to get all of these notices done properly. I apologize for any inconvenience. Once we confirm this, I will send out the email to those citizen budget committee members to let them know if that will work. Oh, go ahead, Don, sorry. So
your board, everybody is clear. This is regarding the road district budget committee.
Sorry.
Which wasn't able to finish their work today, so.
Yes, Commissioner Banks.
Just to make note that both John and I will be in County College that day, or at least trying to be in County College that day. So if you need a majority of commissioners there. I don't know John's
And-
schedule, but
I would just have to say I'm going to be traveling for work on Thursday and Friday of next week, so I will be out of town.
Okay.
you stated the 21st, correct?
Yeah, the 21st.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, because of the of not being able to get this the district budget done today, is that if we could work with Commissioner Toyoka and Commissioner Banks to maybe just be on for a short period so that we can get that done. We're just going to get into a crunch with the schedule requirements. So if that might work, that might be the best step forward. So thank you.
And I'm just also, gonna encourage them to reach out to me with any additional questions that they might have to answer prior to that 21st meeting. So hopefully it won't be a really long meeting. Hopefully we can get it wrapped up in about 15 minutes to half an hour. Yeah.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. I would suggest having county council with you in that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Webb?
I have a very mundane question. Do you need to have a quorum at a budget committee meeting? Because,
Yeah.
for instance, the road district one, there were 2 members there.
But your board and those 2 members make up the body of the budget committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would also be helpful, I think, for us to have I mean, it's too late this year, but for us to have a list of the members of those special district committees. Because, well, just because it would be very helpful to know, Pat O'Grady was on one of the groups today, and I couldn't see his face very well. I had no idea who it was. Just Pat somebody. So it would really be nice to have a list of those people, and also for us to know the names of people. I just think that would be very useful.
Yeah, we can provide a roster prior to the actual budget meetings, just so your board knows who's on which committee. So.
Okay.
Thank you, County Manager. I do think if it's 15 minutes at 4 o'clock on Friday, I probably will be driving back from Lincoln City, so I probably can join as well.
I can't promise 15 minutes. I'm just saying that's my guess.
I thought that was a promise. Oh, man.
If you're driving through my district, no, you cannot count on coverage. I'm just saying, you can count on not coverage.
Well, we've got the business agenda up next, and the update on County Ambulance Service Area Franchise Agreement on page 97. And I assume, Tiffany, you will be taking this one?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Chair Wheeler. Commissioners, good evening. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider updating the Clatsop County Ambulance Franchise Agreement. Medics has been our ambulance provider, as you may be aware. I was getting ready for the meeting tonight and noting that Commissioner Thompson is the only current sitting commissioner that was around when we updated the agreement last time. So I thought I would just share a brief history of the franchise agreement. Our first franchise agreement was in 1996. Medics had been a provider prior to that time, but that was following the year that the state of Oregon gave authority to counties to host franchise agreements. Host, I don't think is the right word, but you know what I mean. The system is set up to avoid undue competition that undermines the integrity of the system. Providing life safety services and response is of utmost importance to the county, and so it creates a better environment than would a wide open market. So we went forward with that. We executed an agreement in 1996, and it was for 7 years. A year prior to the expiration of that agreement, we again entered into a 15-year agreement after medics had already invested significant resources and infrastructure and was willing to do more so if they could get a commitment from the county. That agreement expired in 2016, and that's when we last updated the agreement. There were some significant changes in that agreement relative to it being updated in the years prior. We added an additional ambulance to the core area, which is the, it's demonstrated in the maps and whatnot, but those are areas that have the highest concentration of population. We also expanded those core areas to account for the increase in population since they've been identified originally, which had been in 1996 and then again in 2012. We moved some of our what we call frontier areas in first responder language, which are those areas in our county that are so remote that in this case, agencies in Columbia County could get to them more quickly than we could. So we districted the boundaries and gave some of those areas in Mist and Birkenfeld to the Columbia County response area. We redrafted a new 5-year agreement, but not without some measure of due diligence. We explored the idea of an RFP. We took a community survey, and in the end, we decided that investing in medics would invest in our community, and making that relationship grow into something that was more relevant to the current time was our best move. When we created that new agreement, because the survey had been sort of called upon by our citizens, wait a minute, aren't we going to see if someone else wants to do this? Why don't we put this out for RFP? And we thought that was a good idea, but it didn't really yield a lot of feedback that was actually relevant to the franchise agreement. And so in order to keep our finger on the pulse of that and streamline the process the next time around, we implemented 18-month periodic assessments, whereby we go to medics, we check on those types of things that ended up coming up in that survey. And if by the third assessment, everything has been as it should be, it puts them into a position to easily update the franchise agreement. And that's where we are today. Our last periodic assessment was in December of 2020. Those notes are in the agenda packet. If you have any interest in what those things are that we're looking at, that last assessment, it will be the most useful because it's when we transferred the responsibility, when I transferred the responsibility to staff, and she took a lot of notes kind of explaining what all of those mean. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tom Strecker is on the line with us tonight. For those of you who aren't aware, Dwayne Mullins, who has been the general medics manager for decades, is moving into a new role. Tom Strecker will be taking over for Dwayne, and that's already started. Dwayne announced that at the Fire Defense Board meeting. And so, Tom, Board of Commissioners, Tom Strecker.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. I look forward to many meetings staring at your faces, hopefully in person in not too long.
Thanks, Tom. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for Director Brown? Commissioner Webb.
I'm sorry, I have my usual probably stupid question. I don't understand the relationship between medics and the ambulances that I see in fire stations. Are all of those ambulances that are in our rural fire districts, are they all medics? Or do some of them belong to the fire district?
Go ahead. Oh, I'd be happy to answer that. Many of the fire departments buy retired ambulances to use as rescue vehicles because they're more economical to operate and easier to navigate roads than large fire engines that, They're millions of dollars to buy fire engines, and they try to use those only for fires. That's the most common reason if you're seeing those non-medics labeled ambulances around the county, that would be why.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Banks had a question.
Well, I can only speak from what happens in my rural area, but those ambulances are also first response. And so they'll try to help and hold a patient until medics can arrive. And so, but they're not allowed to transport to the hospital because they're not certified EMTs. And we're very grateful for them in our rural areas. I did have a question though, also to kind of segue over with the same theory. Who responds to our far eastern county border? Does it come in from Clatsop area, or does it go out from the main thoroughway or the hub here in Clatsop County?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
So when medics responds to the far east side of the county, is it coming from the Clatsop area in, or is it coming from the main hub or the center of Astoria? Or I'm reading it as where they're staged areas, their core areas.
So to be clear, the far side of the county is no longer in our service area. We have given that to Columbia County for them to administer resources under their ambulance service advisory. So we can, Tom and I can only speak to those areas such as Elsie Vine Maple and contiguous areas that are covered under that. And if he can talk more acutely about where that ambulance is actually coming from in Clatsop County.
Yeah, are you talking about the Napa Swenson area? Is that?
The Westport area, and I mean, you could include Napa in it also. I'm pretty sure for Napa though, medics comes from the core area of Astoria. That's
correct. A landmark to use to make it easy is the Bradley Hill Wayside up there. That we cover to that point, and from there over, Clatsop Fire, their ambulance runs on the other side of that to cover the Westport area and Wanna-Mill.
Okay, and are they EMT certified?
Absolutely, yeah, they're paramedics and EMT, the same as we are.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that like Wanna and any industrial incident could be, that had coverage in the Westport
absolutely.
constituents. Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Banks, I would add also, Wanna strongly identifies with Columbia County just because of its proximity in terms of our local emergency planning commission that oversees the hazardous materials. And that's been born of a number of years of just realizing that just makes good, efficient sense to associate with those first response partners. I would also clarify that the reason that the ambulances don't run in the rural communities to transport has to do with the certification of their departments and the expense associated with that. I think we actually have a lot of qualified personnel in those rural areas but it's become so cost prohibitive to manage an ambulance service that many choose not to do it. A lot of fire chiefs would love to be able to provide that service and to provide that extra service to the community, but it's just become cost prohibitive. The last thing I would finish on is to clarify that an ambulance service area is associated with one company, but a county can have more than one ambulance service area. You will have the authority to have a franchise agreement, but so do each of the cities and the fire districts. What keeps them from doing that tends to be the cost of doing business in this arena. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Manager Brown, I think this is an extremely fine example of why it makes good sense economically and otherwise to be in committed relationship, because I remember the efforts that you made back when in 2016 to help medics I want to say, true itself up to what we needed as a community, and they rose nobly to the occasion. I think the reward was that Dwayne Mullen's wife hit the lottery. So, Mr. Strecker, if you do right by us, there may be some good fortune in your future. I'm
I
joking
would
about
welcome that.
you would welcome it. Yeah, what's not to love? But
I'd be happy to win.
yeah, they did good for their kids and grandkids with it. So when we're looking at this huge geographic area to cover, how to have those response times be as short as possible. As Commissioner Bangs points out, we've got our rural fire protection people that are local volunteers, but the building of the relationship that knits those local volunteers and their skill level with our ambulance company, that's really a tribute to the devotion you've shown and the excellence that you've helped everyone develop increasingly in this regard. So I'm looking forward to a long and healthy relationship with you, Mr. Strecker. Welcome aboard.
Commissioner Toyoka?
I just had a quick question for Tom. You know, in the contract, there is a subcontractor clause for coverage to ensure coverage. Is Medics ever utilized that? Ever?
Not to my understanding.
Yeah.
We're a part of a much larger group of companies also. So if we ever needed to do that, we would just use one of our other companies.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't think so. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, if not, we'll need a motion to approve the renewal of the agreement. Does anyone want to make that motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson moves that the board approve renewal of the ambulance area franchise agreement with Medics and authorize the chair to sign.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to have the board approve the renewal of the ambulance service area franchise agreement with Medics and authorize the chair to sign. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Manager Brown, and welcome, Mr. Strecker.
Thank you.
That is the only on our business agenda this evening, I believe. Get back to where I'm supposed to be here.
Except I have this Housing Authority, Clatsop County Housing Authority agenda item summary that came. Am I the only one who got this?
No,
Yeah, I have it as well, so. Go
so
ahead.
Chair, members of the board, once you get through the county agenda, then you can adjourn out of the county agenda, and then you'll have to then open up into the meeting for the housing authority.
Okay.
You have to tell me
Do you
everything.
have anything for the good of the order? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the Board of Commissioners.